Imagine you made a tiny little mistake years ago, just used the wrong numbers, and that mistake made huge impact on things, but you didn't realize until now. A little update on the swollen cheek. It's still swollen, and now my eyes are burning. It's been like that for the whole weekend. Wouldn't it be ironic if I had caught something super bad or poisoned myself, and now as things are actually turning out for once, I'll die? Hopefully not. We're not in the garage at the moment, we're in my house. And the reason is we're looking at the dyno loss numbers. We had a huge success previous video with the methanol and nitro PIP2 engine. 22.4-ish horsepower at the wheel from 50cc on methanol and nitro. And we're just getting started tuning. And of course, these numbers will have people start doubting the accuracy of my dyno. And I'm doubting, well, I started doubting the accuracy. I had to go through everything and have a look. And I found a huge mistake. And I was like, no, shit. This is, well, the numbers are false. And we're much lower than we think we are. Well, I'll show you. I'll show you. That's not the case. This video was made in paid partnership with BetterHelp, and they're on a mission to make starting therapy easier and more accessible. I think that's a really good and important thing to do, because if there's one thing that's hard to do if you're a man, and that's a stereotype, but I think it's that way still. It's getting help. And especially when it's not a physical thing, if it's something mental. And often there might be problems you're not even aware of. And that's where a therapist can really help, because they'll see things that you're not aware, because you're often blocked off from yourself in weird ways. They'll help you understand yourself and help you become a better yourself. That's what a therapist can do for you. So BetterHelp makes that threshold for getting help or seeing a therapist much lower, because you don't have to go anywhere. You can do it online, and you can find a therapist and you can try out that therapist. And if you don't match, we're humans, you know, so if you don't match, it's easy enough to try another one and another one and just find one that matches. All you have to do is go to their website and fill out the questionnaire, and you'll be matched with a therapist in as little as a few days. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/twostrokestuffing and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Thank you, BetterHelp. The runs we've been doing has been done with the laptop hooked up to the dyno versus the stationary PC I usually use. And the reason was the EGT Pro didn't like having mains, seeing mains, because it's grounded to the engine. And so that's not a problem. The problem is I usually don't use my laptop for the dyno, and I had to set it up for the dyno. And it's super simple with an inertia dyno in the Your Dyno software, where you just plug in the inertia numbers. But then you have to specify the internal dyno losses, and that's important with my dyno especially, I think, compared to most. The reason is most people have a plain roller and there's not much resistance, and they probably run smaller bearings than what I do. But I have a huge electrical motor that I've cut a window in the top of and then ripped out the stator. So it's the rotor. That is my dyno roller, and that rotor has cooling fins on each side, and there's huge bearings and seals and stuff, because it's like the axle is like 4 inches. It's meant to drive heavy equipment, and so there's a bunch of losses, much more loss. I think that's the reason why the inertia is 2.17 kilograms per meter squared, and I think the reason why it actually works so well for pretty powerful, well, relatively powerful stuff is the losses, where there's much more resistance than what a 2.17 kilogram roller could provide alone. That's not a problem, but the problem is I didn't think about switching the computer when I turned on specify internal dyno losses, and the internal dyno losses I turned on was the default numbers in the software. And when I realized that, I my heart just dropped because then I realized, oh man, these numbers are probably much higher than the real numbers. Then I had to go digging for the coast down run I did with your Dyno box and this dyno. Found the numbers and I plugged those in. I've got them written, well, you'll see them on screen from the screenshot from that from the video. So, but the numbers are so much smaller. So I plugged in the actual coast down loss numbers into the software and re-ran the data. And we went from 22.44 down to 17.13 horsepower. And I was really bummed out. And I was like, no, can't be right. Sounds like it's too strong for that to be correct. And it really is. Like with everything else I've tested with that roller and with gearing and stuff, I've never been able to do everything in a, like start the engine, rev it, clutch it out, and then pull the roller to 2000 RPM in a single gear. That's much more powerful than anything else I've used up there. But I was super bummed out. But then I looked at the numbers and I looked at how I got those numbers. And then I realized the problem, because the thing you have to do to get coast down numbers in your dyno, in the Arduino software, is you have to, it's clearly stated here, you have to set the drive ratio to 1. And the reason is you want to get the numbers at the roller, like at roller speed. Because if you have a different drive ratio, say 6.83, wasn't that? Yeah, 6.83, which is what I used for that coast down run. Well, what happens is you get the, just as how the torque is multiplied from the engine to the wheel by the drive ratio. So if you have 10 Newton meters at the engine and through a 6.83 drive ratio, you get 68.3 Newton at the wheel. That's how a gearbox works. Like you get RPM divided by the drive ratio and then torque multiplied by that drive ratio. But it works the other way around too. So what my numbers, the numbers I plugged into the coast down losses were 6.83 times smaller than they should have been. Okay, I got paranoid. Maybe the losses have changed since that coast down run. Maybe the bearings are more worn, or maybe they're looser and not as much friction. Maybe everything else. And also maybe it would be nice to have that wheel accounted for and the chain, especially as it's so lossy, like with the knobby tire and all that. So what I did was I did a new coast down run with the wheel and chain included. So now we have, it's not the frictional losses during a hard pull under full power will be higher versus a slow coast down. So it's not, the losses in the drivetrain from the rear pulley to the roller are higher versus what I got here. I've already showed the numbers and explained everything inside, but it was such a mess because I was probably the adrenaline from finding this mistake. So here we go again. So we did the coast down run. I realized I had the environmental correction turned on. So I turned that off and then re-ran the numbers. And that's this run. So there's no correction factor, just the pure torque at the roller here now. That's power. That's torque. Then I went into the results table and I gotta do like this, show decreasing data. Torque data from the wheel, from the roller, and I plugged that into, well, here you can see the inertia of the system. So that's 2.3, there's 2.17 in the roller, and then there's 1.13, well 1.29 or something. There's just 2 decimal places here, so 2.3, that's the correct inertia. Data from the manufacturer of that rotor in the ABB motor, and from doing the inertia test of the wheel you saw in the previous video. Then internal dyno losses, and here you can see the graph of the graphed losses. So what I did, I just plugged the numbers in from the coast down run. So this is as accurate as I can get it. You can see how it's under-reporting losses up until around 1100, and then it's over-reporting a little bit up until 1600. And then it's under-reporting again up until peak. But that's the best I can do with getting that graph to fit the numbers we got. Environmental power correction. I'm running ISO correction. I think that's a good one to choose. And there's no engine frictional loss percentage in there, 0. It says typically 15, but I've got it set to 0, so no fudging there. There's also no correction in the moment of inertia for the vehicle, so 0 in everything here. And the gear ratio is set to variable gear ratio, so it just picks up engine RPM from the Ignitec ignition unit and uses that to calculate the engine speed and the gear ratio between the dyno and the engine. So this is as accurate and as good as I can get it. All the numbers check out, everything's correct now. So you're probably curious about the actual results. 25.31 horsepower, that's where we're at now. And I'll call that at the output sprocket from the variator drive, even though the losses in the chain and wheel are higher than reported during a coast down. They're higher under hard acceleration. But let's just be conservative and call this after the variator at the sprocket numbers, 25.3 horsepower. You might remember how people were puzzled by how my Derby Metrokit Pro Race engine didn't produce more than 13.13 horsepower at the wheel on that dyno. Well, actually, it did produce probably like between 17 and 18 horsepower at the wheel, because my numbers were wrong. Luckily in that direction. This means for 2 years now, whenever I've tested something on that dyno, the results have been much better than what I saw. And that means that I've been looking for huge problems and huge mistakes in what I've been doing, when actually probably just some adjustments and tuning was what was needed. So this means the struggling, it's been artificial. Like it's been a lie. I've been living on I've had a false reason for the struggle. So that's a bummer. Like 2 years of I haven't used this software for the inertia dyno much. Like most of the testing have been done on that thing that didn't really work with the load cell on the engine and the retarder. But so luckily we haven't been really testing stuff on the dyno, but we did test the old cylinder with various pipes and stuff. And the pipe I'm running now, the pipe I designed for that cylinder was the best. It was just the numbers were far too low compared to what they should have been. And that's because I put in almost 7 times too small losses for the dyno. 6 years ago, testing the SPX, that was with Simpledyno software, and that software had a coast down feature where you did a run, let the roller coast down without the wheel on it, and then you just use that file as your coast down file. So the numbers back then were, the loss numbers back then were correct, but everything after has been too low. Well, the struggle hasn't been real, the struggle has been fake. The struggle is fake. But now I need to celebrate, because well, we found this, the numbers add up, it is correct. We're making great power. I think we need to add a bunch more fuel, more compression. Okay, that's it for this video. I just had to clarify, and there's no, like, people are probably doubting the numbers, but for me, it's all about actually being able to create lots of power, not just bragging about it. So, good numbers. The numbers are good. The power is good. See you next time.